for what we're doing and who we want to talk to, like open source is actually a value add for them to be able to see what's happening and like what controls and like what policies they can set before they even get to the conversation.
Welcome to Screaming in the Cloud. I'm Corey Quinn. I am joined today by CEO of Paper Compute, Brian Douglas, or B. Dougie, as the kids today call him. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here.
This episode is sponsored in part by my day job, Duck Bill. Do you have a horrifying AWS bill? That can mean a lot of things. Predicting what it's going to be, determining what it should be, negotiating your next long-term contract with AWS, or just figuring out why it increasingly resembles a phone number, but nobody seems to quite know why that is. To learn more, visit duckbillhq.com. Remember, you can't duck the Duck Bill bill, which my CEO reliably informs me is absolutely not our slogan.
So I have to say that my discovery of what you do was a tale rife with disappointment. I was so excited for a brief instant that when I heard Paper Compute, oh wow, it's an e-ink company, and I finally will have something other than a Kindle that uses the technology. But no, it's an AI thing instead.
Yeah, sorry to rug pull you on that one. It was a quick one, though. Yeah, Paper Compute, we're doing distributed systems for agents, infrastructure for agents. So we've been at it for about 2 months at this point, and it's been quite the ride. Obviously, AI is moving pretty quick.
Yeah, I am hesitant to say too much about the current state of AI because between the time we record this and the time we publish this, which is not that long, there will doubtless be a bunch of things that come out that made me look foolish. But when you say infrastructure for AI agents, what does that mean?
Yeah, so we started with 2 different open source projects. One is Telemetry, so traces. If you think about OTel, we started this back in January, and at the time, OTel did not work with LLMs. It works, but it was kind of ham-fisted.
No, that's just OTel. That's basically its entire tagline. It works, but it's kind of ham-fisted. It's right on their website.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Not from my mouth, but they have been sitting around and like doing their sort of weekly meetings, and they're going to like have better structure for this. But what we want to do is like telemetry for agents in particular, and that is the first project, open source, HEPL. The other one is Stereos, which is the place that you play tapes. And the idea is having a agent runtime. So it's a VM built on NixOS, and that's kind of the TLDR. I could go into like way more detail on the why and how, but I realize we also only have 30 minutes.
Well, I do want to dive into this a little bit because when you say telemetry for AI, that usually means a few things. There's the metadata around it. What was the duration of the call? What application was this tied into? What was the provider? And notably, the one I like, what were the tokens? But then you can also get into it. What was the actual conversation? And that's where I start to feel a little bit hunted. Which side of that divide do you come down on?
Yeah, so we're doing a bit more of the telemetry where you have like the tokens and the time duration. We do have the prompt stored from the agent and from the human. So like the agent does have a bit of the thinking. We'll have like, hey, Brian asked this thing, and I'm looking at this thing, and I remember this folder here, which is always fun to look at. I think a lot of that gets squashed in Claude Code and Codex now, but back in my day, last summer, agents would spit that out when it was thinking.
It's also dangerous on some level because this has been the case for 20 some odd years, where if I want to make one of the smartest people I know look like one of the dumbest people on the planet, all you have to do is just do a readback of things they have typed into search engines, like things that I know off the top of my head, but I want to validate, like what does S3 cost? Yeah, I do know that off the top of my head, but every once in a while I like to make sure that it hasn't changed on me. And also I have brain farts, which tends to happen as we age. And yeah, let's just make that work. The idea now of, something's watching me and actually seeing the dumb question I'm asking the robot, that's scary. I'm going to have to make sure that I grease some palms.
Yeah. So like the way it works today, so we're still open source first and only right now, and it works SQLite. It basically writes to your home directory.
So it's local telemetry.
Yeah, so it is local first, and that's what we have today. By the time this comes out, we will have a cloud product. Will be multiplayer, where if you choose, you can send your tape sessions to the cloud for your coworkers to also comment on.
You're funded by HeavyBit, as am I, and so is Atuin, Ellie Huxtable. And that's always been an interesting problem, too. It's, you can take your shell history and share that to your colleagues as well. It's like, oh, God, can I pay you extra to not do that? Like, even now, if I run Atuin Wrapped, which is their whole summary thing on this, where it tells me that or the number of unique commands. Yeah, my commands failed 23.1% of the time, which, as someone who spent 25 years in the Linux admin space, that's kind of a high number.
Yeah, it's a high number, but I imagine it's more like golf where, no, I have no idea. But I feel like with because I'm a pretty heavy Vim user. So like I'm definitely hitting like leader key and like hammering like a bunch of stuff that doesn't exist because it's just all muscle memory. I'm a big fan of like seeing the data and like you can interpret that data in whatever good and bad it is. So like I'm not a big fan of like, oh well, 90% of other companies are failing only 40%. Like your company's failing and now you're never going to make it to unicorn status. Like I think that's it's a bit of a myth, but I think I can see what a competitive nature and leaderboards would come into there. Which big fan of Atuin as well.
Yeah, which I highly recommend not looking at the Atuin wrapped summary. For example, in 2025, apparently I typed 17,500 commands. 1,700 of them were CD, which is my number one. Number two is npm run. And the third is ls, which is just, all right. Yeah, where am I? And what else is here with me is sort of the thing that I'm always wondering.
Yeah, ls is that's definitely top three for me for sure. I don't think I have no idea. I don't run Atuin actively right now, so I just wiped the machine. So I'm still catching up with all the stuff.
It's pretty great. So one thing I find interesting is folks who do a painful thing and get hurt and decide, you know what, let's do that again. This is, of course, a terrible segue into the reality. You are a second-time founder. Tell me about that. Why would you do this again? Yeah,
so I'll mention my first-time founder project, which is OpenSauce.pizza, which now .pizza is actually not working anymore. .com is the only way you can see it, unfortunately. But we built insights in the GitHub repos. So I'm just a big fan of looking at data. I got a C in statistics in college. So for whatever reason, it's been a chip on my shoulder to build more stats into developer products. But yeah, so built that, sold it to Linux Foundation. It worked out pretty well for us. I thought I was never going to do it again because I felt like I got like a sort of boulder lifted off my shoulder. I went and worked at another company and then immediately saw in the AI space, infrastructure was just like not even a thing we were thinking about in 25. So now in 2026, we're like, oh, maybe computers should like be more agentic friendly and like we should probably lock these things down and like they'll give it access to your Gmail or like time out the runners. So all those questions that I had around like building stuff in the AI space, it had to be answered with some software. And like in December when I had the ideas, none of it was built. Now it feels like everyone's building it right now.
It's almost like if you go back in time and there's folks of us in a certain generational era where we struggled mightily with the advent of the internet and social media in some ways that kids today don't, because they grew up knowing that they're in a fishbowl and everything they do is going to be discoverable. It feels like I have been using my computer in such a way that I assumed I would be the only person using it and that AI would not come along and start trying to pick up the pieces behind me. And if you give me a wiped machine and now this is my new computer, and from day one, the expectation is the AI is going to be looking over my shoulder and using any of the email that I interact with and the browser and the rest, I can use it more effectively in ways that aren't potentially disastrous when a robot gets confused.
Yeah, we're in like a weird world. Like about a year and a half ago, everyone had like these pendants that you'd like record conversations with, or you have like the Meta frame glasses that you just like recording TikTok videos all nonstop all the time. And now we're in a space where like now our shell history is being recorded, or now our prompts are being recorded. Now we're basically being judged on how many tokens we're leveraging, or if we're not spending enough, or we're spending too much, or we're doing side work on our main machine and all this other stuff. Like it is very, very interesting in this current state of the world we are in today. And I know like the world's going to change in like 3 weeks. So like today, like I think we don't know what we don't know yet. And I think what's interesting in this space is like I want to build something that we can at least understand like what we're sort of passing through and like what tokens we're leveraging. The thing I've been actually super hyper fixated on is Claude Code has a max subscription for $200. I easily will spend $4,000 in tokens every week. So Mike, I get that in Q4, they're probably going to IPO. So at least I should start tracking to see how much I'm spending so I can sort of brace for impact. But what I found out also in the last couple of weeks is prompt caching in Claude Code is saving 93% of those tokens. So this is basically all the stuff we're building. We'll have this. Actually, you can see this in the tape stack. If you record your tape sessions, Tapes is the product, the open source projects. Tape sessions, tape deck is the command line interface. You can see a dashboard to see your tokens. And what's cool about that is you can see the prompt caching, and you can kind of brace for that. But then just last weekend, they shipped this thing called fast mode, where you can get faster LLM inference, but you'll just pay extra money on top of your max subscription. It's pretty wild. Like,
yeah, people did some experimentation with it and said the results were not materially different, and it was expensive at the top of it. So I get it. If your production is down, we really need to figure this out. Okay, hit the turbo button on the old tower. But it's a strange thing. There's also a psychology part of this where we saw back in the day when cell phone companies would offer fixed amounts of data instead of unlimited plans. A number of folks, I'm one of them, would wind up going for the unlimited plan every time just because I don't want the mental overhead. I still find myself thinking like that when things that are charged on a usage basis, even though the actual amount of money is irrelevant. We've raised millions of dollars. Terrific. I don't necessarily need to hyper optimize around $4.68 worth of tokens every day. Maybe that's not the biggest bang for buck of what I should be focusing on right now, but I don't know how to turn that off.
I guess for us, I can speak for myself. For us who don't come from money, like sometimes you've got to hold on to money longer. I was also at AT&T, like unlimited plan for years with the iPhone until eventually it scroached, like up until, actually I was on T-Mobile up until last summer. And I had like this grandfathered like $80 a month plan for the entire family. So
if they were first trying to beg you into changing and then trick you into changing over the years.
That was the thing, is like when you go through the BART tunnel, you get no fast internet, you get nothing basically. And it's because you were on the lower tier plan that they can't give you like high throughput. It's a crowded network in the BART tunnel. And that's the point you really feel it, is like at the moment you're sitting at GitHub issue and then GitHub like this freezes on you on your phone. So I'm like, I guess I'll pay the $225 a month to like get on my modern plan. So that way I can actually send a GitHub issue on my in the BART tunnel for the 5-10 minutes that I'm in there.
Yeah, I wound up adding Google Fi as a secondary SIM for a while, and then switched over to using it full time just because it was half the price of Verizon and seems to work reasonably well. But it's still it's unlimited, but they'll slow you down after 100 gigs. And I think on my busiest month, I wound up using 20 of it. So it's fine. I feel that way about the Claude Max plans as well, where I have hit session limits before when I've been working on something, but I'm not one of those folks that winds up waking up in the middle of the night to prompt the fleet of agents to do things. It's when I'm sitting at my desk and working on something, I'll make the robot go build something. Okay, fine. I'm not the heavy user. And in fact, I could probably cut my plan further than I have. I'd like not having to think about it, and I'll be sad when that goes away.
Yeah, and it likely will go away. I think they're kind of like preparing us for this moment. I imagine we still get this unlimited plan, but it's not going to be $200. It might be $2,000 a month. And I think that's the point where all like the haves and the have-nots will probably start showing themselves up. Yeah, I've been playing a lot with a lot of local models as well to see how far I could take those, which, yeah, there's a lot of stuff you could do to like...
And almost a prompt router where, great, go ahead and do this basically complicated find replace in this entire code base. That can be done with a slower local model, whereas architect the whole system, maybe I want one of the frontier models to do that.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of tools that outside of like the agent harnesses that have approached that problem but haven't done it very well. I think OpenRouter has a bit of a feature around this as well, if you just go straight OpenRouter proxy. But yeah, something I'll be experimenting with a ton. Yeah, exciting times.
And I think you're addressing the right part of the problem, which is first, I don't know what Cloud Code is doing under the hood. I have no idea what the usage looks like. I know sometimes it's genius. Other times it feels like it's not that. And I wonder how that's playing out under the hood or what's going on. I just know that I need to be careful enough around this when I'm having it do things that if this is going to make a mark, maybe make sure that that test coverage is where I think it is.
This episode is sponsored by my own company, Duckbill. Having trouble with your AWS bill? Perhaps it's time to renegotiate a contract with them. Maybe you're just wondering how to predict what's going on in the wide world of AWS. Well, that's where Duckbill comes in to help. Remember, you can't duck the Duckbill bill, which I am reliably informed by my business partner is absolutely not our motto. To learn more, visit duckbillhq.com.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll mention as well, so I mentioned tapes in like the telemetry part, but stereos is the VM. So the actual computer, like essentially it's NixOS. You could run it on your Mac OS. You could run it on Linux. Currently not Windows yet. So we just need more people to care about Windows and we'll focus on it. So open an issue, please. That's what I keep telling people. Open the issue and then we'll track it. But the idea there is like the same way Claude Code does subagents. It's great because it takes that token usage onto its own channel. So you don't get that sort of Now it's 1 million tokens context for like a session. Previously it was like 250. But what I'm getting at is like it will take that session off to its own session and then come back with a hash. So like with tapes, we're using a Merkle DAG, just like Git. You could take a session, you could hash it, you could search it based on the hash. So you could do lookups, you could generate skills, but then you could also have separate sessions within sub agents. And that's what we're doing with Stereos. So Stereos is more likely something you use on your own metal. There's a lot of these like sandboxes and computers that people are leveraging in the cloud. Our bet is that you probably want to build your own cloud, or you're at an enterprise that wants to do this. And that's what Stereos comes in the question.
Yeah, what I've been doing is there are risks to it, and I'm aware of that, but I have a dedicated AWS account called Superfund because it is expensive and toxic, and it has no access to any data in it, or so I thought. And then I just run an EC2 instance there that is, and run Claude in dangerous permissions mode. It has full root access to the box. Go ahead. All you're going to blow up is my bill. And then one day I realized it had access to read things off of my calendar, which was not expected. It turns out that at some point in the last few months, Claude's skills and connections were now tied to your Anthropic account, not to your actual, not to just the machine you installed them on, which is great most of the time and terrible in this one use case. So first thing I did is slap the control into settings.json to make sure it doesn't do that anymore, just for data isolation reasons. But yeah, that is not something most people are going to do. They're not going to build a box that does this. Claude Code gets very greedy with the RAM. So this is a couple $100 a month for the EC2 instance to sit there running 4 or 5 of these things. And there needs to be a better solution. I'd love to have something like that on the laptop since I'm mostly around when I want this stuff doing things.
Yeah, I run it actually on this machine I'm talking to you on. Just as of last weekend, I did OpenClaw in a Box is a repo I put together, just so like if you want to spin up this and you want to have like constraints and you want to have like network shutdown on certain interactions. So the use case I use is on Sundays, I go through my email, it labels a bunch of stuff for me, and it times out at 2 hours. So if it can't get it done in 2 hours, then it's probably it's too long, or I need less email. So like I can figure that out. I'll go call the government and tell them to stop sending up email, or whatever the I'm thinking of the Seinfeld when Kramer said no more mail. Not sure if that's possible yet.
Yeah, I have in the next room, I have a Kubernetes singular running on a cluster of 10 Raspberry Pis. And one of the things that runs on there is Billy the Platypus, who's now my virtual EA, where he'll wind up receiving the email, writing a barely professional, sarcastic response. And now with an additional fun feature, he'll go out to a data enrichment API, figure out what you look like, and then integrate a cartoon of him dunking on you in some way into the insulting response, which is just amazing. It is terrific. People are trying to sell me things or be obnoxious in email in various ways. I feel a little sorry for some of the entry-level business development types and SDRs who are reaching out trying to sell me something that doesn't make sense. But other times, this stuff is so scattershot and send to the entire world. Would I like to buy land in Napa? No, thank you for asking. I would not. So yeah, have the insulting platypus smack back. I love that, but there is risk to this if it starts tying into all the other stuff. I mean, the scary thing that I need to defend against and why there's a human in the loop is it can now schedule things for me, which is great. But it'll casually look at my calendar and then say, oh, he can't then. He's meeting with insert company here. It's, how about no? That maybe it's fine. Oh, he's having another meeting to yell at AWS. Yeah, that's a real rarity. But maybe I'm meeting with a confidential client. Maybe that's not something that needs to be disclosed in an email.
My challenge is like I just started paying $20 a month for ChatGPT, which gives it memory. I think you have to enable it, but I did enable it because I was building a computer with a GPU in it. I was like, oh, I'm going to just like prep the ChatGPT to like know everything I know about my computer and then like recommend like, well, not RAM at this point, but like there was actually last year before RAM was too expensive.
Good luck, money bags.
Yeah. But I was just like looking for different parts and like seeing if what would work with what. But then like randomly I'll ask a question about like something would like actually work related and be like, oh yeah, why don't you run on your GPU machine? I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, the machine you built last year. It's like, completely out of context, not as bad as your sort of confidential call, but like it feels like it's like, oh, remember that one like thing you built for your daughter? It's like, dude, stop. Not the time or the place. Read the room.
Yeah, that's part of the problem that all these agent things have. Like there are different personas that I take on when I talk to folks. When I am in a board meeting versus when I am pitching to a customer, versus when I am writing a sarcastic newsletter, versus when I am being a parent, versus when I am shitposting on the thing formerly known as Twitter, I act very differently. And if you cross those streams, it doesn't go super well. Like there's a time and a place for all of this. Like I do a mean conference talk and I do some great stand-up jokes. Maybe don't do that when I'm putting together a wedding ceremony or something like that. There's a time and a place, and that's something that gets lost sometimes.
Yeah, but it's great for a LinkedIn post. I think it can get the LinkedIn whatever. I don't know what that vibe LinkedIn has on posting, but I know Claude does a good job of self-referent posting.
Oh, absolutely. And the problem is you can't even say that that's not what LinkedIn is designed for. You go to LinkedIn now and it interrupts you when you're writing stuff. Hey, you want to rewrite that with AI? It's what do you think this network is for exactly? And then I read some of the insipid stuff on there, and you want to hope it's AI, but you're kind of scared it's not.
Well, I guess we'll figure it out. Someone's gonna have to ship is this AI or not? True or false?
So I am curious, what would possess you? There might be a less confrontational way to phrase that, but we're going with possess you to start a company where effectively everything you're putting out so far is open source. That feels like it has some definite advantages to it, but it's also the sort of thing that can be fraught.
Like I come from GitHub, I come from open source. I learned how to code because of open source. So like it's in my ethos, but specifically for what we're building with tapes and stereos, like I feel like the telemetry parts is table stakes. If you ask any sort of YC company or any sort of VC, if like, hey, we're doing telemetry for agents, like cool. So are 100 other companies. And then now we thought we were ahead of the game when it came to like the VM and like building the actual runtime. But then like a bazillion other companies came out and said, we have a runtime too. Like Deno has a runtime. Deno was doing something completely different. For what we're doing and who we want to talk to, like open source is actually a value add for them to be able to see what's happening and like what controls and like what policies they could set before they even get to the conversation. I spent a lot of time in my first startup where we spent way more time trying to convince people and having long conversations. Today, we're just like, hey, use tape stereos. If that kind of fits within the thing that works for you, then we have this cloud or we have this self-hosted on-prem thing that works. One and the same. Like not one and the same, but obviously one's going to cost more and be more complicated. But we feel like open source is a lot easier for people to try before they buy without setting up a 14-day trial or whatever.
What about the current zeitgeist impression that folks are giving off, where this is the bad days of SaaS, where companies are going to start vibe coding SaaS solutions instead of paying third parties for it?
Yeah, I think that's the same thing of like I can write a bunch of C++ code, but also I can't because I've never written C++ code. So yes, I can vibe it, but also I don't know what bad, like unsafe C++ code is. So when it comes to like SaaS products, like you could probably build the thing. I built like look at my LinkedIn connections and give me like a list of companies that I can like go reach out to and hang out with a bunch of friends and show my new thing. Like I don't want to pay LinkedIn premium or sales thing for $12K a month when I can just like vibe code a thing. But there will be a point where I bring on a salesperson who I don't want to like use my vibe coded thing and I want to share information properly in like a Salesforce manner or HubSpot manner. Like there's a place where you kind of grow up into like, again, I don't want a 14-day trial. I know what I'm doing. I'm just like running through the system and plugging and playing. And then on the vein of like open source, like I feel like open source is table stakes as well, like where you can close source it and like keep everything close to chest. But also I think what we need is like more people building infrastructure. So like if anybody clones our repo and like says, I'm going to kickstart from this and let's get started, maybe we're protected with AGPL, maybe we're not. But at the end of the day, it's like what we need is this stuff to be out in the system and out in the infrastructure. And hopefully we're the ones that build it. But if like someone else builds it, then obviously we're
at least all going in the right direction. Yeah, like I've built a bunch of internal SaaS tooling that scratches certain itches I have that I'm not willing to pay a professional to get up and running for me. But when we're building Skyway over at DuckBill, that it's not hard software in that it is effectively a data platform that manipulates data and normalizes it. Yeah, we know how to do that. We are not pushing the bounds of computer science here, but the data must be correct. It's not the sort of thing that you can vibe code and expect good things to fall out of. Lord knows we've done experiments around that. Now you can come out with something that sounds very good and looks good at first glance until you start digging into it. But if you're making sincere business decisions based on that data and it turns out that data is wrong, no one wants to be in that position. It's the same reason that Anthropic vibe codes a lot of stuff, but they pay, I think it's ADP for payroll. They're not just paying for the software that arranges the paychecks. They're basically paying for expertise.
You don't want your Superbase table to be completely open and like read and write. Well, obviously the thing that happened last week is Delve. Like everything was accessible. And I imagine a lot of the stuff was just kind of shoot from the hip. And at a certain point, you kind of want to bring in the experts to come clean up and polish the stuff.
naively, I thought compliance was one of those spaces where you wanted to have expertise in. Shows what I know. That's why I've never been on the 30 under 30.
40 under 40, perhaps?
Not even anymore. I have to be 50 under 50 at some point, where I think we just call that folks. So what's next? You mentioned you're doing a cloud offering probably by the time that this winds up shipping. I mean, that will presumably address my biggest problem with your website right now, which is it doesn't have a pricing page.
Yeah, so we will have a pricing page hopefully in the next 2 weeks. We're fastly approaching that. We have the infrastructure that works. We're sort of pending a UI on top of it. So next is basically you have tapes, you have sessions, you have agents. You want to play those in a multiplayer fashion. So like you and your team could all look at your weird prompts and all the tokens you're using, and then you can sort of like dictate what is next. So something actually really cool I've been working on is like taking your prompts and then training a model with that. So if you want to do like some fine tuning down the road for your local models.
How heavy a lift is it to do something like that? Because I've toyed with the idea, but every experiment I come up with is like, step one, you're going to need about $10,000 worth of GPU time, which, okay.
If you know anybody at NVIDIA, you have some friends that will give you some rental space. But yeah, if you have data is one of the hardest parts to get for training. I particularly have not done it myself. I've been in the room when this is happening at my last role at Continue. So I have a good idea of how this works, but then folks like Unsloth, they can help you do the fine tuning part. So like there's a bunch of like prosumer, like SaaSification ways to go about it, but also Claude's my friend as well. So I might just like chat with them and build out a 6-week pipeline to make this work.
I'm still trying to figure out why when I prompt for certain things versus my teammates prompt for certain things, I get such vastly different results in terms of tone, sarcasm, the way it builds things. And I have no answer for that. It seems like a telemetry play might be the right answer here.
Yeah, I think it's got your taste down to let's get the first thing out to Corey, and then co-founder gets the better taste.
Exactly. Yeah, Mike is the one that winds up doing all the serious button-down stuff. Like, we can make this talk to Microsoft Excel. And I'm sitting over here going, we can make it rank the U.S. presidents by absorbency. And it's one of those things where at some point between the two of us, we're going to reach a happy medium where it's both whimsical and useful, but we're not there today.
The litmus test I have right now is WWJD, which is what would John do? And I ask that question every time I go write in one of his projects, which is like, I don't write a lot of Go code. Like professionally, I've done some Go code, but really not to the level that John has. So what I want to do is take John's sessions to help inform my prompt sessions. So I've been generating skills from his sessions, and so far going well.
Shared team skill of Corey Quinn voice. I need to go in and sabotage soon. Some of it gets uncomfortably close, and that's my space in the universe. Thank you very much.
Amazing.
So I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with me. If people want to learn more, where's the best place for them to go?
Best place to go is I have a site called b.dougie.dev. That's my catch-all. I guess they would call it link trees back in the day. But LinkedIn, I'm happy to like take a DM there. No promises on response. And then X at bdougio, and then Blue Sky at pizza because I wasn't taking that platform seriously and I just picked a random URL.
Yeah, I am having some challenges myself with the answer of where do I direct people to for all of these things that I have going on. And every time it feels like I wind up narrowing it down by collapsing 2 projects into one, 3 more spring up. I don't know that there's ever a way to get away from it.
Yeah. You'll find me in Minecraft.
There we go. It's similar to someone showed me a SSO page screenshot once, and it showed all the different services you could use to log into it. And like they had GitHub, they had LinkedIn, they had Google, and they had the Lego website, apparently, which acts as an identity provider, which is just absurd to me. I want to have that as a enterprise class SSO login just to see the reaction.
The Lego Envoy proxy would be amazing. Like let's get that to work.
Thanks again for taking the time to speak with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one.
Brian Douglas, CEO at Paper Compute. I'm cloud economist Corey Quinn, and this is Screaming in the Cloud. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Whereas if you hated this podcast, please leave a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice, along with an angry, insulting comment. Be sure to include the tapes replay because there's no way you were able to be that clever all on your own.